Warning, if you're not a fan of long video, you might want to skip this one, but if you're down with me, welcome to another economic Bible study. All right, and welcome to part 2 of getting paid for the value you deliver. The last time we spoke, we talked about Genesis 27, how Jacob was able to get the blessing from Esau, and how in your case as an entrepreneur, you can gain value, for what you deliver. I'm just going to run through very quickly. If just in case you're watching this for the very first time, you can go down my timeline and look for the video that I'm referring to. But just a quick summary for those of you who might have missed it. Number one, I talked about having a product. You must have a product. All right. Number two, we talked about having a product that the market really wants, and I talked about the principle of addictive demand. All right. So you've got to be able to create things that your market feels like they're addicted to. They must have it non-negotiably. All right. Next, I talked about never negotiating when you're hungry. All right. Esau said he was so hungry, he literally negotiated his value away. All right. Number four, solve the needs or the desires of your customers. Number five, give the customers exactly what they want. Number six, you must have good relationship management skills to become your customer's favorite service provider. That's your job. You must become your customer's favorite service provider. Next, I talked about the fact that you need a mentor. All right, experience is not the best teacher, other people's experiences, so you got to remember that. Number eight, strategy is better than energy. And I talked about the fact how, Esau was brought into the story in verse 5 and didn't return until verse 30, while Jacob, on the other hand, was probably brought into the story around verse 7, 8, or 9. And by the time Esau returns, of course, Jacob's gotten the blessing and he's done and dusted. All right, and number 9, execute quickly. Now, we're going into the next few things that I believe are instructive for you as an entrepreneur to be able to negotiate the value you deliver and get paid for it. Number 10, you must have systems and structure. Now, you may be thinking, Steve, why do I need systems or structure? I'm just a one-man business, or this is just what I do. I don't have any staff. I don't need systems. You're wrong. If you're a parent, you would notice that when you have a baby, you create systems and structure for that baby. You may not have any staff, but you would recognize by learning that this is the time to feed the baby. This is the time to bathe the baby. This is the time to, check before you feed the baby, check the temperature. There's a whole bunch of processes that you go through such that when someone else comes in, whether it's your mother-in-law, whether it's your mom, whether it's a sister, whether it's a housekeeper, when they come into your house, you teach them the structure to take care of that baby. So you make sure that when they feed them, you can feed the baby at this time. After this time, the baby goes to sleep for 6 hours or whatever the case it is. That's exactly what you do. Now think about your business. Your business is the baby. You're the mom or dad, and whoever comes into the house is a worker. Right? Now, the way you've been doing things must be structured and documented. Now, bringing it closer to the story, in the story, Jacob had a process to replicate cattle. Esau did not. I'm going to say that again. Jacob had a process to replicate cattle. So when Rebecca said, go to the back of the house and go get, a goat or go get an animal and we'll use it to feed your dad. Now, here's the thing. Every time you have to go outside to go and get paid, or every time you have to go outside to go and hunt for cattle, then you're doing yourself a disservice. The Bible says in Proverbs 12 and verse 27, it says, the lazy man does not roast what he gets in hunting. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's one of the scariest scriptures I've ever read, because it says the lazy man does not roast what he gets in hunting. So guess what? The Bible called him lazy. Now, it's weird. This guy's a hunter. He's incredibly skilled. He's incredibly good at what he does. He goes, he sets a trap for the animal. He waits hours in perfect silence. Finally, he gets the animal. He hits it upside the head. He kills it. He carries it on his shoulder, or he drags it. He gets it to his house. He skins it. He cooks it. He eats it. And the Bible says he's lazy. Why did the Bible say he's lazy? Because he says he does not process, he does not roast, he does not refine, he does not create a system or structure, right, for what he got in hunting. So I mean, think about it this way: you can get meat, and you can turn that same meat to suya. You can sell suya. You can sell it as kilishi if you package it. You can sell it as mutton or mincemeat or whatever the case may be. But even better, imagine if you now have a herd of cows at your disposal. The lazy man does not roast what he gets in hunting. Every time you have to go out to get what should be in the house, my friend. No disrespect, this is the ugly truth. No disrespect. The Bible calls you lazy. You must have systems to give you what you have constantly, whether or not you're there. Many of us, all of us, are sitting at home or locked down. And for many of us, our finances have shut down because of the lockdown. We don't know how long this is going to take, and for many of us, we are already broke already, and that just goes to show that you're just behaving like Esau, that every time you need to get something, you have to go out to the field and get it, whereas Jacob built a system, my friend, built a system to be able to mate the guy. I mean, read, subsequent scriptures. Every time Jacob got into a jam, he was able to multiply the cattle because he had a system. I gotta move on. All right. Next, number 11. Don't focus on your weaknesses. Don't focus on your weaknesses. Jacob says to Rebekah, "But hey, what if my father touches me? Because I'm not as hairy as Esau is." So the mom says to him, God forbid that's gonna happen. We need contingency planning. So guess what? While he didn't focus on his weaknesses, they made contingencies for the inevitable, just in case Jacob's father, Isaac, eventually touched him. And guess what? He did. So while we don't pray for the worst, we must mitigate against that. We must do some sorts of contingency planning just in case what could possibly, it's Murphy's Law. Whatever could go wrong, whatever could possibly go wrong will eventually go wrong. So while you do not, focus on your weaknesses, you must make contingencies against them. Next, number 12, carefully consider risk, but don't let it stop you. No risk, no reward. No pain, no gain. Imagine if Jacob had said, no, I can't. If this man touches me, if I talk, you'll know it's me. I'm not doing. Guess what? God had absolutely nothing to do with that process. God gives you free will. If you don't act, you don't get stuff. All right? Risk precedes reward, but you must be able to have contingencies, but make it happen. Next, number 13, leverage on your competitor's strength and do better. Leverage on your competitor's strength, but then do better. Now, why do I say that? In verse 15, I think it is, Isaac says, "Come here, my son. Let me touch you. Let me make sure that you're the one." And when he does, Isaac says something. He says it's the voice of Jacob, right? But it's the hand of Esau, right? So Jacob had the ability to leverage on his competitor's strength. So I may not be as hairy as Esau, and that's what Esau's got going for him. But I've got the voice of Jacob. I've got my own understanding, which is why, here's the interesting part. When Isaac asked him, "How did you bring this food so quickly, my son?" And Jacob said, "It is the God, your God, who does the impossible, your God who is capable of doing the impossible, that made it possible for me to do the impossible." I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So you must be able to leverage on your competitor's strength where you can and then do better. All right, number 14. Be prepared for the unexpected. And I've talked about that. That's contingency planning. All right. Number 15. Focus on your strengths. You got to be able to focus on your strengths. What are the things that you're good at? Right? Remember I talked to you about in the other, one of those other economic Bible studies about David and Goliath. He couldn't match Goliath toe to toe, but he focused on his strength. He had stamina, he had speed, and he could wear Goliath out. All right, you've got to be able to focus on your strengths. What do you do well? You know what I mean? Jacob had the ability to think on his feet. He was wise. He was incredibly gifted. He could say, the Bible says that he was a quiet man. And when he meant quiet, it didn't mean that, he didn't talk, he was in mumu. No, he was quiet because he was contemplative. He was a contemplative man. He was an introspective man. He was a man that thought deeply. He was given to great meditation. That's what it meant by being a quiet man. So he took the fact that even though I'm not as gra as Esau, but I have contemplation such that when Isaac asked him, "How are you able to do the impossible?" He says, "Listen, man, He could have said, well, I went to the field and I did this and I did that. But Jacob has no experience in hunting. He's not hunted. The Bible says he dwelt in tents. He wasn't a hunter like Esau. So no matter what he said, he could never have said it as well as Esau. So what did he say? Because he was a reflective and contemplative man. Because he knew the kind of man his father was, who was one in deep communion and relationship with God. He said, what would my father say? How would he respond to something like this? Okay, the God he serves does the impossible. It was your God who made it possible for me. And Isaac, knowing that God is able to probably just, as Esau is going out, a ghost just strays his path and he catches it, and whatever. But he says, the God you serve, the God of your fathers, made it possible for me to do. So focus on your strengths. Number 16, check this out, very important. How many minutes do I have? Okay. Give the customer more than what he expects. Now remember this, the Bible says Isaac said to Esau, go get me tasty food, get me goat meat, pepper soup, that's what I want. All right. But now the Bible says, my Bible is not there, is not here, but it says Isaac wanted savory meat of food, but guess what? And the Bible says, and Jacob brought the tasty food, the savory meat, the goat meat, pepper soup, and the bread. And the bread. So, for example, all Isaac probably wanted was just goat meat, pepper soup. But guess what? Jacob added bread to it. So my point is, you've got to give the customer more than what they pay for. You've got to go the extra mile. You've got to see how you can still make a huge difference. Even though they're paying for what they expect, give them what they didn't expect. Add that as a bonus. So not necessarily upsell, but just give them something extra that they didn't expect. You know what I'm saying? Because they're spending their money with you. All right. So next, number 17, deliver before time. Isaac was wild because he expected that by experience, Esau would take forever or take quite a long time. Maybe he ordered him in the morning and Esau got back in the evening, and Isaac was probably starving, right? But guess what? Deliver before time, which is why Isaac was tripped that this thing it would normally take you 12 hours to do this, but you've done it in 3. How were you able to do it in 3? You've got to wow your customers. You've got to deliver before time. Guess what, guys? Delivering on time is no longer good enough. You now have to deliver before time. So if you say, it'll be ready tomorrow, make sure it's ready today. If you say it's ready in 48 hours, make sure it's ready in 24. It's inconvenient to you, but it would wow your customers. Number 18, speak the language of the customer. Speak the language of the customer. So in this corona season, everyone is afraid. Don't speak the language of fear. Speak from the perspective, I know exactly what you're going through. This is what I'm doing to help you. I understand your concerns and I'm here rooting for you, blah, blah, blah. Speak the language of your customer. Jacob could speak the language of Isaac. He said, it is your God who made this possible for me to get this animal on time. Right? Speak the language of your customer. Understand what they're going through. The people who are buying this, that, and the other, why are they buying it? They're either buying for status or they're buying because they're afraid. Understand that language and communicate it effectively. And lastly, and I believe that this is it's not lastly, it's one of the last things to say, is fear not. Drats, I should have said this at the last one. It would have been what a way to end it. Sha, fear not. This is not the time to be afraid. All right, don't be afraid. Number 20, differentiate yourself. The voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau. Find what's working for you and then differentiate yourself. And lastly, in all you do, give God the glory in advance. All right. I hope this has been beneficial for you. I hope it was worth the wait. Stay safe. I love you. Praying for you. You guys are gonna be fine. Make sure you wash your damn hands. Okay. God bless you.